Data structures and object-oriented programming in C++. We'll see a few questions, interview, viva, job interview questions and answers. First is list out the characteristics of FOP. What is this FOP? These are function. OOP is object-oriented programming. FOP is function-oriented programming. So what is the characteristics of FOP? First is large programs are divided into smaller programs, which we call as functions. Most of the functions, they share global data. Please understand, functions share global data. Functions transform data from one form to another. Okay, and it employs top-down approach. So these are few characteristics of function-oriented programming. Second is list out the characteristics of object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming, the programs are not divided into, or the task is not divided into functions, rather they are divided into objects. The data is hidden. Data hiding is an important aspect or feature of object-oriented programming. Objects, they communicate each other, not by sharing some global data or through functions. Yes, function is always there, but by sending messages and receiving responses. And it does not take top-down approach, but rather it follows bottom-up approach. First, we identify the objects. Then, on basis of that objects, we decide the functionality and the relationships, and of course the attributes also. Third is list out the basic concepts of object-oriented programming. Oops. See, first let me clear that object-oriented paradigm and object-oriented programming are two different things. Languages which are object-oriented programming languages, they follow object-oriented paradigm, the principle, the rules, the formation, the technicalities or the idea behind object-oriented paradigm. Object-oriented programming, they follow it. So these are two different things. Now we are talking about basic concepts of object-oriented programming. So what you are going to answer? First we have objects and then classes. Then data abstraction and encapsulation. Inheritance, polymorphism, data binding, message passing. Most importantly, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. These are the most important requirement. Define an object. What is an object in object-oriented programming? Object, it is an entity. They are basic runtime entities in an object-oriented system. So these are the basic, say, gram for a kg, like this. For a object-oriented system, the gram is object. Object represent the real world entity that is distinctly or uniquely different from or can be discriminated from others. It has its own importance, its own entity, its own relevance, and it has certain attributes and it performs certain functions. These are objects. So these may be persons, a place, or any item that a program has to handle. Now fifth is define object-oriented programming. What is object-oriented programming? That is what I was saying, that this is object-oriented paradigm. This is object-oriented programming. So OOP or object-oriented programming is an implementation of which programs they are organized as cooperative collection of objects, each of which represent an instance of some class, and whose class are all members of hierarchy of classes, united through the property called inheritance. What you can say here, apart from this is a good answer, but you can also say that object-oriented programming is the programming methodology which follows object-oriented paradigm, which includes finding or identifying objects, making class of those objects, and applying the data hiding, the inheritance, the polymorphism properties, and data abstraction properties into it. This is object-oriented programming. Or object-oriented programming languages are those languages which they provide these factors or these aspects of features like inheritance, like polymorphism, and encapsulation. Define a class. What is a class? A class is a collection of objects which has similar attributes and operation. For example, take account as a class. So it will create an object called saving account which is belonging to the class account. So class is nothing but the combination of like-minded similar type of objects, A class is a structure or a formation, or you can say a capsule, which contains the properties and or say attributes and functionality which each instance, that is the object of this class, shows, presumes, and uh, possesses. Now, seventh is define encapsulation. What is encapsulation? See, you have a capsule, right? In this, you have medicine. But why you want this in the capsule form? This is cellulose. The outer side is cellulose. If you wet it, it will just squeeze, or it will not be in the form which is the hardened form. Inside it, you have medicine. These medicine, they are quite sour, so you cannot take it like this. So they are encapsulated. So why a patient needs to worry about what is inside? What is inside? It may can contain this data. It may contains the attributes of the data. So encapsulation is wrapping up of this data and functions into a single unit, which is our capsule in this case. This is called the encapsulation. The data is safe, that is, the medicine is safe inside it, and the medicine may not be good, it may be sour or bad in taste, so it is kept safe inside it from external interference and misuse. In this case, encapsulation does that. Define data hiding. Now, the data hiding suggests, the phrase only suggests data hiding means hiding of data. What happened earlier in C-style programming languages or languages like this, which are not following object-oriented paradigm, the data was open, or moreover, the data was global. So anyone, any function, any other procedure, they are able to change these values, and so the data become inconsistent, or there are so many problems arising from this. Data hiding does, and it hits back to the problem which were encountered in the previous assumptions of the programming style. Now, the isolation of data from direct access by anyone, in this case the program, is called as data hiding or information hiding. Ninth is define abstraction. Now, abstraction has a different meaning in English. Basically, abstraction is various levels. The abstraction means clear distinction between different levels. In this case, in object-oriented paradigm, data abstraction means hiding something. Means you are abstracting it, making it abstract. If a car is there, why a driver should need what engine has, how many horsepower. No, horsepower should be known, but just for example, you have a filter. What material this filter is made of? Why he is required to know? He's knowing, or he's aware of how to drive. It's okay. So it acts, or abstraction refers to the act of representing essential features without including the background details. So representing essential features, that is driving the car, is okay. But why to show the background details? So hide it. This is what the abstraction is all about. Define ADT, abstract data type. What is ADT? The classes which are using the concept of data abstraction is known as abstract data type or abstract data type classes. But in the data structure form, abstract data types are those data structure which has data in certain structure and the operation which can be applied on these data structure in the data which the data structure contain. Define data member and member function. Data member and member function. The attributes which are holding the information are known as data members, and the functions that operate on data members are called as member function. A class is like this. So it contains the data like integer age, right? And we have functions called get age, set age. So these are the data members, and these are the function which operates on this data. These are member functions. So a class if a class contains in itself or inside the data, that is data member of that class. If a function is inside a class, that is a member function of that class. Define inheritance. What is inheritance? Say, inheritance is the process by which objects of one class acquire the properties of objects of another class. The new derived class inherits the members of the base class and also adds its own. So now here you are here, your father is here, your grandfather is here, right? Now your grandfather has certain properties. Say he has some land. Your father has acquired it, and now you acquire it. Your grandfather has brown eyes. Your father has also acquired that brown eyes, and now you have also acquired the brown eyes. So inheritance is similar to what I just said, is acquiring the properties of the object. So this is now for these two levels, this is the base class, this is the derived class. Your father is the derived class of your grandfather base class, and here in this level, you are the derived class and your father is the base class. And for your father, this is the base class and your father is the derived class. So this is the inheritance, inheriting the properties. Define polymorphism. Polymorphism. What is polymorphism? As the name suggests, poly means many, morph means faces. So the simplest answer would be, that is sometimes given by the students, are the polymorphism means a functions having same name but different work depending upon the input data or the parameters and the return time. Okay, but here we see it allows a single name operator to be associated with different operations depending upon the data passed through it, as I just suggested. So an operation may exhibit different behaviors in different instances. So polymorphism is the ability of operating differently in different circumstances. This is polymorphism, right? Define dynamic binding. What is this dynamic binding? Static binding and dynamic binding. Dynamic binding means the code associated with a given procedure call is not known until the time of call at runtime. So there are two times. One is your compilation and the second is running. So every program you need to compile. For compiling, that means you are checking the syntax errors, etc. Then runtime, you are actually linking the libraries or the external interfaces you are linking. So at the compile time, when you have some data, you process it. That is the static binding. But at the runtime, you are actually linking those things which are not being done at compile time. This case is a dynamic binding. Next question is, what is message passing? Now the most important aspect which generally is oversighted is when you have two functions or various functions inside your program, then there has to be some message passing. You will order or you request some function to do certain task. So you have to send the data and you have to receive the data also. This is one kind of message passing. So it is a process of invoking an operation on an object. In response to a message, the corresponding function is executed in the object. So here the message passing is what object-oriented programming says, that you have an object and you, by dot or by arrow, you invoke certain function, okay, or you invoke certain operation on this object. So this invocation is the message passing. List down the benefits of object-oriented programming. Benefits of. There are various benefits of object-oriented programming, because now the language after C++, which was actually Simula 67 upgradation, it just came from Simula 67, that was the first object-oriented one. Then now languages like Java, C#, and all those languages which are coming up, they are all based on object-oriented paradigm only. So we have the principle of data hiding, which helps to build our secure program. So first, you can build secure program from OOPS. With inheritance, you can redundant code can be eliminated, so you don't have to write again and again. So code reuse, object-oriented programming or paradigm, it enhances or it facilitates code reuse, which is very important nowadays. Then software complexity are easily managed. Previously, the old style languages or paradigms, the complexity was quite high, but OOPS has immensely helped in reducing the software complexity. 17 is list down the applications of object-oriented paradigm of programming. So you can apply it in real-time systems, and you see that even they are applied, because we have now Misra C++ standards like this for programming style or standards or coding style of your C++ programs and others. There are various standards. These are applied in real-time system, simulation and modeling, AI, artificial intelligence and expert system, neural network programming, and also CAD/CAM system. There are various places. These are just a few of them. What is implicit type conversion? Implicit type conversion. So when an expression consists of data items of different types, the compiler performs type conversion automatically. This is referred to as implicit type conversion. For example, if you have a division, say 20 by 3.0, right? What happens here is the above is an integer, or the numerator is integer, and the denominator is your, say, double or float. But what happens in implicit type conversion? First, this expression, this relation, will be changed into 20.0, and this to 3.0. It will remain as 3.0, and then the final answer would be calculated. So this type of conversion first, because what happens, that you have a certain space for the result, and these two have different memory space. One may take 4 byte, one may take 8 byte. So first, what we do, we convert this 4 byte into 8 byte. Then now the both are of 8 byte. I'm just giving an example. It may take more than that or less than that, depending upon the system. I'm just giving an example that you have certain x size, you make it as x size. If it is x by 2 or x by, say, 3, you make it x size, and when these two sizes are similar, that is, you make it to 20.0, now these two are similar, now you can divide. And the final answer would be of x size only. So the answer will be placed. This is implicit type conversion. What is the difference between break and continue statement? Break and continue. The name suggests you want to break out of a loop, you break. You want to say that for a particular value, you don't want to continue. You don't want the loop to work out. For others, okay, continue statement does exactly that. So break means breaking a statement. This break statement takes the control to the outside of loop, so it breaks the loop. While the continue statement takes a control to the beginning of the loop, just leaving that particular value. The value on the particular value on this which the loop is working. For a certain values, you don't want the loop to work, or you don't want any result of that. For that, you continue. Okay, I don't want to work on this value. Just continue and go to the next value. Second, it is used in loop and also in switch statement. So break is used in looping system. Please understand, you cannot use it anywhere else. Only under loop. When you want to come out of the loop, you use break. And in switch statement, nowhere else you will apply this break. Continue means it can be used only in loop statement. You will not find continue in any other programming construct. Now distinguish between while and do while statements. While is a entry controlled loop. These both are looping construct actually. And do while is exit control loop. So while this is a loop, this is a top tested loop. That is what I was saying, that this is an entry control loop. That means you test for a condition. If it is okay, then only you enter inside the loop. While in do while, this is a bottom test loop. First you enter inside, and then you check for the condition when you come outside. That means at least if the condition failed, at least this loop will run for once. One time it will run. Then loop is not executed if the condition is false, and loop is executed at least once even though the condition is false. This is the difference between do and while. If you want to take user input, okay, and then you want to perform, that while will not even take those values, user input, options, yes, no type. If you want to interact or you want to make an interactive loop, then for that do and while is good. At least it will run for once. 21. Give the syntax of array initialization with an example. Array, array is a data structure. It's a primitive data structure. It's a linear data structure, and the syntax is quite simple. You first define or declare an array with a data type here. Then you place a array name as per your choice. Then under these square brackets, you present the size. And this is initialization. You are trying to initialize. So this is a declaration, and now you want to put some values. So these are the list of values which are comma separated. So they are separated by comma. Let's take an example. I want to make an integer array. So this is int data type. This one. Mark is the array name. The size of the array is 5. And these are the integer values, 5 values which are comma separated. And then you have a semicolon here. Give for example of string manipulation function. Now strings are nothing but they are a character array only. They are contiguous characters in the form of array. So string, you can find out the length of the string length, strlen. You can copy the content of one string to another by string copy. You can concatenate, means if you have two strings, hello John, you can have one string as hello, other as John. You can combine them. You can also change the cases, that is str upper or str lower. This str upper will convert the lowercase string to the uppercase. 23rd, there are different types of parameter passing techniques. Once you want to, you have a function 1, function 2, or you have a main function, you want to pass these values. So what are these parameter passing techniques? So these are, you have pass by value, where the actual value is sent, where the copy is sent, where you send the copy of the value, you don't send the actual value. Pass by address, now you pass the address here. And reference, yeah, you pass the reference here. So at this point you pass the address, at this point you pass the reference, and ampersand is used here. What is dynamic memory allocation? Dynamic memory allocation. What happens in this array type of structure? Array data structure is a primitive data structure. Now what happens when you define an array or declare an array? You are specifying the size, and it is mandatory. You have to ask for to the computer that I want this much memory location. So this memory location will be allocated. Now consider a situation when you want the values, or you are not aware of the values which you are going to put. For that, the array size is fixed. You cannot add values. You can delete it, of course, but you cannot add the values. So now you need some dynamic allocation type of thing. This is dynamic memory allocation. So allocation of memory space for any data structure during the course of the program execution is called dynamic memory allocation. So when the program is actually running, and now the memory can be allocated or deallocated depending upon the requirement of the program. This is dynamic memory allocation. 25th, how memory management is performed dynamically in C++. Can you answer this? Memory management, you must be aware of the stack and the code segment. Every program has some space. That is, it has a code segment, it has a stack, and it has heap. So there are two operators which are available for dynamic memory management in C++. First is new. You might have seen in C, we allocate dynamic memory using malloc and calloc, and then we free that memory. In C++, we use new for dynamic memory allocation and delete to deallocate the dynamic memory. Define a class. What is a class? Again, we have seen what class is. It is a way to bind data and its associated function together. It's a framework with data and the associated functions, and it allows the data to be hidden if necessary. You can provide the modifiers like access modifiers or access specifiers, actually not modifiers, access specifiers, like public, like private, and protected. 27th, what are the parts of class specification? Class specification class. Can you answer this? The class specification has two parts. First, we have class declaration. In this, you describe the type and scope of its member. Then you have class function definition. Here, you describe how the functions or class functions are implemented. So, first, the type and scope of the members, data members, and then the member function definition. Write the syntax of class declaration. How you are going to declare the class? First, you have to write a class. This is a keyword. Then this is up to you. You can name a class name, a valid class name. Then you can have an access specifier. You can have then a variable declaration. Then you can have a public declaration. Then you can again go to some other access specifier. You have three possibilities: private, protected, and public. Then again, same stuff can be done for the public also. This is the syntax of class declaration. Now, 29th is where will you define a member function? Where you are going to define the member function? First is there are two places. The function can be defined in two places. There are two options. You can either define the class this function, member function. You can define it inside the class, or you can also define the class definition of member functions outside the class definition. If you want to make it outside, you have to use this scope resolution operator, and you have to write the class name and then the function name. So this is how it is done outside. But inside you don't require, you can just write the function name and you can define it. 30. Give the syntax for member function definition outside the class. Give the syntax of member function outside the class, which I just told you how it is going to define. You have a class name here. There has to be some return type of this function. That means integer, float, double, boolean, etc. Then this function name, any valid function name you are going to give. These will be the argument name declaration. So this is how you apply or use the scope resolution operator, and then you can write the function body. And this is the discussion. This is the discussion of the member function which you want to define outside the class. 31. List the characteristics of member function. List the characteristics of member function. What are the characteristics of member function? First is member function can access the private data of the class. Apart from public members are accessible by everyone, every other procedure or class. Protected, they are only accessible by the friend classes. But a member function inside can access any private data, any data of the class, not even private, but any data which is defined in the private, protected, or public. Second characteristic is a member function can call another member function directly without using the dot operator. Right? You don't even require this dot operator. A member function can directly call any other member function which is there in the class. 32. Define nesting of member functions. Nesting means one thing inside other, calling one thing then other thing inside. Nesting is nothing but in the programming concept you understand. You have a brace here. Then you have a brace. Inside this you have a brace. So this is nesting in layman terms. So a member function can be called by using its name inside another member function of the same class. In this case, this is known as the nesting of member function. 33rd. List the properties of static members. What are these static members? Now, every object or every member of the class can be accessed by various instances of a class. These are objects. So objects can access these members. So every member has every object has access to a member. Now, what we want is that we have, say, 10 objects. So there will be 10 members. They'll be using 10 members. We want only one member to be accessed by all the objects. That means we want the member to be only available in once to all the class functions. And these are static members. So a data member of a class can be qualified as a static member or static properties. It is always initialized to 0. So whenever a static member you define, it will always take its value as 0 when the first object of the class is created. So when you create the first object, the member will assume the value of 0, and this member is available for all the objects, but it will remain only 1. It can be shared, but the values cannot be changed. This can only be changed by, and it will if object 1 change the value to 1, the object 2 will read, it will get the value as 1. It is visible only within the class. This is important. It is visible only in the class. So thank you so much. This is the first installment of data structure and object-oriented programming in C++. We will be taking it more. So wait until then. Thank you so much. Take care.